Well, hello, ladies and gents. Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com, and welcome to episode 2 of the Keto Bulk Muscle Building series. Today, I want to talk about some DEXA results because I got my DEXA scan results in. So the first video kind of encompassed what I was going to be doing from a training perspective, a nutrition perspective, and it also showed some initial updated posing footage. That was taken on the 1st of the year, January 1. This DEXA was taken on the 5th, January 5th, so this is all pretty relevant information. According to the DEXA, which is the gold standard for body composition analysis, I'm coming in at 15.1% body fat with a lean mass in grams of 67,447 grams. Now, one thing that is worth noting here, if you look, I don't know if this will focus, if you look on the previous test date of 11/4/2019, my lean mass was actually higher, 68,156 grams. Let's talk about that for a second. Why would my lean mass have gone down from 2019 to 2021? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I did a competition prep starting in November of 2019 that went through until January, February, March, April, I believe May of 2020. So it is not uncommon, it's very common, it is most likely certain that you will lose some lean tissue over the course of a competition prep, especially one that lasts that long. That is true regardless of the diet that you're following. However, I will argue that you will lose much less lean tissue if you're following a ketogenic diet compared to that of a carbohydrate-dependent diet. Now, that may be discouraging to some, but that is just the nature of the beast when it comes to natural bodybuilding. You go through a deficit, you spend 6 months in a deficit, then you spend another 3 to 4 months in a reverse diet, and then just a few months at or above maintenance. That's not really much time to build any muscle. So experiencing a slight dip in lean tissue over the course of a year that you're doing a competition prep is totally normal. This is why it is so incredibly vital that you do not do a competition prep every single year as a natural athlete. There is a little bit of nuance to that. If you are just getting into the sport, if you haven't had very many years of training, your body's going to be a little bit more adaptive to that stimulus. You're going to be able to build more muscle. But when you get to a seasoned bodybuilding state, when you've been bodybuilding for 10 plus years, you're not going to put on pounds and pounds of muscle every year. You're fighting for just a pound or two. So if you're able to do that, it's considered a win. You're focused on improving the look, the symmetry, the proportions of that muscle. Muscle maturity is a thing, but you're not going to be stacking tons of muscle to your frame every single year as a natural athlete that's been lifting for several years. So it stands to reason that when you go through a competition prep, when you're at a very significant deficit for quite some time, you're going to lose some lean tissue. Training hard and continuing to lift heavy and intense is a great way to mitigate that, but you're still going to lose a little bit. This is why I'm such an advocate for having a legitimate building phase that lasts for significantly longer than the cutting phase, which is why I'm probably not going to do another competition prep and step on stage until 2023, 2024 probably, because the time needed to build muscle is a long period of time, and you don't want that to be shorter than the period of time you're allocating for losing body fat. So having adequate time at a surplus is so incredibly important. So that is something to take away from this DEXA scan. And that's going to hold true regardless of whatever diet you're following. But if you're a natural athlete especially, making sure you've got ample time to surplus to build some legitimate muscle is so incredibly important, which is also why I'm very excited about this muscle building series to help showcase and document how to optimize for that in a ketogenic state. One other thing that I thought was interesting from the DEXA scan was that I am overweight according to my BMI, which this is totally bogus. So don't pay attention to that, because BMIs, if you have any lean tissue that's, substantial at all, is totally bogus. Another thing, I got an H2O in-body, which is basically a at-home consumer's version of the in-body scan, which is a bioelectrical impedance scan. Most bathroom scales you step on, it's got like the little foot electrodes. You step on that, it estimates body fat percentage, but it's incredibly inaccurate because it's only measuring your 2 legs and then estimating your upper body. This in-body scan is pretty unique because it has a handheld electrode as well. So it's measuring your feet and your hands, which basically is measuring upper and lower body. And it has this app, which I don't know if this is going to focus either, but that's what it looks like. It won't focus. So yeah, it's got like the breakdown there, and then you can kind of look and see the trends, which is kind of cool. Come on, focus. There we go. So you can kind of see the trends of the different in-body scans, which is unique. And again, it's going to fluctuate up and down based off of what you're doing from a hydration standpoint, because the bioelectrical impedance scans are very dependent upon hydration levels. But I figured having this would be nice because I'm not going to be able to do a DEXA scan every 2 weeks, but I can jump on there and get an in-body scan every 2 weeks and then document over the course of this building phase how much lean mass I'm putting on, how much body fat is changing. The one thing about this consumer-grade in-body scale is that it does not measure total body water. So you can't really, with most in-body scales, like on the commercial level, if you walk into a supplement shop and you use one of their in-body scales, if you walk in and you say, oh, I lost a lot of muscle and my body fat jumped up, but I don't understand that because I've been stronger, you can look at the total body water, and that's what's going to account for that miscalculation in body fat and lean muscle tissue. Since this one does not measure total body water, I'm not really going to be worried if there's a little bit of discrepancy, like if one day it says I have more body fat and less lean muscle tissue, which is why it's so important to have more than one parameter to test against, which is why I built out a spreadsheet to test and measure my progressive overload in my strength training. So that's the other thing I want to touch on with this video here. I've got that strength training template, which I'll again link out to in the description of this video. If you want to download that for your own use and benefit, by all means feel free. But I've got it structured as an 8-day hypertrophy heavy split, and then I've got it in 4 window blocks basically. So 4 weeks, and then I'll basically repeat that. But each week I'm having the goal of implementing some form of progressive overload. So for instance, this week I increased my number of sets on both conventional deadlifts and sumo deadlifts by an additional set, and then on that additional set I did 2 reps last week. This week I did 3 reps. Next week I'll probably do 4 reps, and then I may have a week, if I'm feeling not as strong, I may have a week where I maintain and do another 4 reps, but then increase that by another rep the following week. But implementing some form of progressive overload. If you're continually implementing the progressive overload and seeing an increase in strength in the context of being in a caloric surplus, and the in-body scale or something like that says, okay, you lost lean tissue, you can feel pretty confident that that may not be the case if everything else is improving. So having more than one parameter, more than one proxy to test against is so incredibly important, which is why I've got the spreadsheet to measure the progressive overload, the in-body scale, and then just honestly pictures, measurements, caliper test, and just anything else I can use to get a proxy. From a macro standpoint, we're about 1 month into this building phase now, and I've increased calories. I started at about 3,300 calories. I am now up to about 3,500 calories. Just to give you an idea of what my macros are looking like, pretty much the same thing that I showed in that first video. I've got the heavy whipping cream in my coffee, that Keto Brains nootropic creamer. I've got a full keto brick, can of sardines, and liverwurst sausage for meal 1. Meal 2 is a pound of 75-25 ground beef, 6 eggs, but I've added a chorizo sausage link, which contains 11 grams of protein and 22 grams of fat, which makes my total caloric intake for the day 3,589 calories, 288 grams of fat, 20 grams of total carbs, and 186 grams of protein, which breaks down to about 75.9% of my calories coming from dietary fat. I feel super good. I feel energized. I feel solid. So I'm happy with that. I've still been running 1 mile, at least 1 mile, typically 1.5 miles every single day. Not so much as a form of cardio as it is just a way to stay accountable, and it's kind of in line with my New Year's, not resolution, but manifesto, the whole 365 Savage ordeal. So running every day there, that's been feeling good. Recovery's been fine. With regard to the training, all my lifts have gone up, so I feel really good about the entire keto muscle building program thus far. So that's where I'm at with this video, and I'll give you an update next time. I'll probably do updated posing footage. And updated posing footage when with a build, y'all, is not going to be anything drastic. Like in a competition prep, if I do updated photos every 2 weeks, you can really start to see the differences every 2 weeks. With a building protocol, you're not going to see those differences because my body fat is staying pretty much the same. And if I put on a couple grams of lean tissue, you're not going to be able to see that in the pictures and the video footage. But I'll continue to update that footage more so as a means just to showcase that I'm not putting on just a ton of excess body fat, because you don't want to do that, obviously. But you're not going to see a drastic change week after week with regard to the pictures and the measurements and the posing, honestly. But it is still good to have some type of accountability factor there, and also just some type of proxy to make sure you don't get too far off on a tangent and put on any unnecessary body fat. But that is pretty much all I have to say for this video. I'll see you next time for the Keto Muscle Building series.